Hey people, welcome to the channel, and I thought I'd do a little bit of a tutorial here on the kind of gear you want to get before you go out on whatever adventure. So this is not going to be news for anyone that's been here for a while, but as always there's new players and there's a few things that you can benefit from preparing right before you go out. There's a few things that if you don't get, then it may get a little bit tricky. So let's get right to this, not making the video super long. So you probably understand by now that you need at least an undersuit and a helmet, especially when there's any chance you'll end up out in space floating with no air. Beyond that, you of course have your armor. So before you can put any of this, you need the undersuit. Undersuits all the same. They will not do much of a difference depending on what you have. You see that there's a little bit of information here. For example, this one has different temperature ratings. So if you're in a very hot or cold place, I think that back in the day this was a lot more relevant than it is these days. But anyway, this is your starting point, right? Your undersuit. Then you get to the armor that you're putting on, and as you see, I have, it says there, light armor, damage reduction 20%. So that's going to be going on top of your undersuit, but 20% for light armor. There is now a difference in how fast you move. So for example, if I'm going out not expecting any trouble and definitely not looking for it, you probably get away with the light armor. You're going to be much faster than with heavy stuff. Same goes for the helmet, right? Make sure it's all matching. Make sure you don't have, like, for example, a heavy armor and a flight helmet that will provide just 10% damage reduction. If you're going for heavy, go for a full package. So the things you want to have with you, I will try to have a backpack for a little bit of extra cargo capability, especially if you find like a nice helmet that you don't want to leave behind. The backpack comes in nicely. It also looks better in terms of the weapons, and with any backpack you can throw not just one, you can throw 2 weapons on these things. So it gives you the advantage of having yet another slot there for an extra gun that you may either take with you or collect along the way. Other than that, you will have, even if I'm not expecting to have any trouble, still a handgun and a couple magazines. Even at times where you're like investigating a place and there's like a laser mine, just being able to shoot it makes life a lot easier. And you never know when you come across a lunatic that just starts shooting at you. It also has to be said that if someone is hunting for players, the handgun is probably not your best bet. You can get around moving a lot and being a little bit savvier, but usually you want to have something better. Usually if you want to have the best firepower, it's going to be either one of these two, right? Your FS9 LMG, that's going to be your best bet. With a Coda pistol, if you get a couple rounds in place, that's quite powerful. There's a lot of damage, but limited to 6 rounds. And they're not as easily found. These are pistols, you find them all over, especially this one, the LH86. Decent enough as it is, but the Coda you usually will have to buy. One of the things you always want to have with you, med pen. The med pen, you bring it out with, what is it, with 4? Right, you bring out your med pen and you store it away with long pressing on R in case you don't have to use it. One of the things you definitely don't want to go out without is your tractor beam. So make sure you have the Pyro multi-tool and the actual true hole tractor beam that goes along with it. At times, if I really want to do some cargo, I will even take a spare one, just in case you drop it or something goes wrong. Med pens, at least a couple of them. You could go with a med gun, again, especially if you're going to do more FPS. Med gun is kind of mandatory. One of the things I always try to have with me is the Tiger Claw. Now, the Tiger Claw can be found in bunkers. That is one of those things you always want to loot. And yeah, I try to have one with me because if something goes wrong, if I accidentally shoot someone I'm not supposed to, the Tiger Claw means I can go back to Security Post Korea and I have a nice chance of clearing my crime stat. Have videos on that, pretty much the same thing still, and yes, it saves you from spending any time in prison. Now, this is like your basic setup. If you want to go with a little bit more protection, which maybe you want to do, especially if you're mixing it up a little bit, this is like what I would recommend going with in any outing, right? At least a minimum. I mean, you can do this butt naked, as I've shown in previous videos, but that's not really helping your case for survival. Medium armor like this combined with this, these you can find in the urgent missions, the pirate missions, and the 890 jump. This is where you farm it. And I like this armor because you have medium, 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 and you can combine it not with a helmet, which is this is quite awful, but this one in khaki or OD green, it looks okay in the setup, and you can put like a larger backpack. This is one of my typical go-to armors, the Stitcher core with the Stitcher legs and Stitcher arms, and one of these woodland helmets, G2s. These are a nice setup. Other than that, remember to have in your backpack, always go out with something very important you don't want to forget about. One of these cruise bottles. These cover both your, as you see there, 38% hydration and nutritional 30. I mean, look at this. Even eating a sandwich is gonna be 34. This is 30. The sandwich has no hydration, and for water that's 44. So this little bottle combines both needs, and always have one of these. You can buy these in the distribution centers, the cargo centers, super affordable. Buy several of these and always have one of these. I cannot emphasize how much you often find yourself about to finish something when you just drop dead because you start taking a lot of damage, right? Don't confuse that with bleeding. If you see a single drop, that is not hydration. This is hydration. What you see there, 95%. The single drop of blood, that is blood loss, right? For that, you want to have the med pen. But that's kind of it. Now, the best setup, of course, for combat is going to be heavy. It allows you to carry the largest backpack with 120, which is a lot more cargo capacity, but heavy armor, 40%, 40, and 40 here as well. That's going to be combining some of the best stuff. And you also have more slots for magazines. In that case, I will usually go with the LMG, with a light machine gun, right? And the pistol, I will still try to carry a pistol just in case I need a little bit more backup. But yeah, the heavy armor will make you a lot slower, but a lot tougher. Even when you're surprised by an ambush, by some other player trying to shoot you, there's a good chance that you will survive the initial ambush and you can bring him down because of the heavier armor, especially if he's not wearing a heavier armor himself. Guys, that's the loadout that I recommend having. And the keys would be something to a little bit of hydration, food, tractor beam always, because you never know when you come across nice loot and things you want to move around, and some form of self-defense weapon. See you on our next video, guys. If you enjoy this kind of content, subscribe and let me know. That's always appreciated. See you next time. Take care.